The story is called My Stepdaughter Asked Me for $7,000, and when I said no, she accused me of SA. My wife believed her without proof and tried to ruin my life. Here's what happened. I'm Jack, a 46-year-old man, and life was finally getting better after a tough few years. My first marriage ended around a decade ago. Rachel and I had been married for 12 years, but honestly, we were better off as friends than as a couple. We had gotten married too young, didn't know what we wanted in life, and eventually realized we were just existing alongside each other. There were no big fights or drama, just a gradual, mutual separation. I met my second wife, Lauren, a 43-year-old woman, when I wasn't looking for anything serious. We crossed paths at a community fundraiser aimed at rebuilding homes after a flood devastated our town. I was coordinating the volunteers, and she was leading an art station for children. Lauren had this infectious, optimistic energy that was impossible to ignore. She was a single mom to Emma, who was 16 at the time, and juggling 2 jobs to make ends meet, teaching art during the day and working at a diner in the evenings. According to Lauren, Emma's dad, Mike, had abandoned them when Emma was just 2 years old. He had moved on to a new family in Texas and never looked back. No visits, no financial support, nothing. I remember being impressed by how resilient Lauren was, managing everything on her own. Not long after that fundraiser, Lauren and I started dating. We hit it off immediately because of our shared interests: music, hiking, and classic cheesy movies we had both watched countless times. A year into our relationship, I proposed. It felt like the right thing to do. When Lauren and Emma moved into my house, everything initially seemed perfect. Lauren was able to quit her second job at the diner because my income as a construction project manager comfortably covered our expenses. Emma adjusted quickly and even got involved in the wedding planning, picking out decorations and expressing excitement about having a real family again. My home, while not extravagant, was something I was proud of. I had saved up for years and made smart investments to buy it in my 30s. It had 3 bedrooms, a decent yard, and was located in a good neighborhood. I thought it was the ideal place for us to begin this new chapter. With less financial strain, Lauren finally had time to focus on her art, and we enjoyed family dinners and movie nights. It felt like I was building the life I had always envisioned. However, in hindsight, I ignored several warning signs. Emma was quite demanding, though it seemed harmless at first. She would ask for extra money for school supplies, and come home with an overpriced, trendy backpack or claim she needed a new outfit for a school event, only to show up with something designer. Lauren would brush it off, attributing Emma's behavior to the difficulties of growing up without a father. Another red flag was Lauren's handling of money. When we first met, she was buried in debt because she always tried to give Emma everything she wanted. She felt immense guilt as a single mother, which affected her parenting. If Emma wanted the latest iPhone, Lauren would find a way, even if it meant delaying other bills. If Emma wanted pricey makeup, Lauren would take on extra shifts to afford it. I thought I could help break this cycle by teaching Lauren to budget, helping her pay off her debts, and even setting aside money for Emma's college. But whenever I said no to Emma, Lauren would often undermine me. At the beginning, there were moments when we genuinely felt like a family, but those moments became increasingly rare. Emma's entitled behavior surfaced more often, and Lauren's tendency to make excuses for her only exacerbated the problem. I believed we could overcome these challenges with patience and understanding, but looking back, I realize how naive I was. Emma wasn't just a spoiled teenager. She was manipulative. And as much as I wanted to believe Lauren would have my back, the reality was that Emma always came first. At the time, though, I was oblivious to all of this and just focused on building a life with the woman I loved, completely unaware of the storm looming ahead. The honeymoon phase didn't last. I thought Emma was simply adjusting to our new family dynamic, but I couldn't have been more wrong. Her true personality began to show, and it wasn't pleasant. The first major issue arose about 2 months after they moved in. Emma decided she needed to redecorate her room. Her room was already fully furnished with a queen-sized bed, desk, and wardrobe, but apparently it didn't fit her vision. She presented Lauren and me with a list of demands: a new bed frame, designer wallpaper, and LED lights she'd seen on TikTok. The total came to nearly $2,000. Lauren hesitated at first, but Emma used her usual tactics: crocodile tears and guilt trips about how no one cared about her happiness. I stood my ground, suggesting Emma save up and contribute, but Lauren eventually gave in, as she often did. "It's just her room, Jack. It's her space," Lauren said, as though that justified the expense. Emma barely helped with the redecorating, instead treating me like a worker while I painted and assembled furniture. Once it was finished, she hardly used the room and soon started talking about redecorating again. Then came the study abroad fiasco. Emma announced out of the blue that her school was offering a summer program in Paris, which she absolutely had to attend. She didn't ask. She simply assumed we'd cover the costs. When I looked into it, the expenses totaled over $10,000. I immediately refused. We weren't made of money, and Emma wasn't exactly excelling academically. Lauren, however, started making excuses again. "She's young, Jack. This could be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." Emma, seizing the opportunity, said, "If Dad were here, he'd let me go." Which was laughable since her father hadn't even acknowledged her existence in years. When I didn't budge, Emma gave us the silent treatment for weeks, slamming doors and ignoring us. Lauren bent over backward to appease her, while I tried to block it all out. The final straw was the car situation. For her 17th birthday, Emma got a used but reliable sedan. I thought it was more than generous, especially given everything else. I contributed half the cost of the car, but within 6 months, Emma totaled it. She ran a stop sign, leaving the vehicle completely beyond repair. Instead of being thankful she wasn't injured, Emma started hinting that her next car should be something more stylish. Lauren even considered it for a moment, but I firmly put my foot down. I remember Rachel warning me about situations like this. We would catch up on the phone every few months, and she always asked how things were going with Lauren and Emma. When I mentioned the car accident, she said, "Be cautious, Jack. Kids like that don't outgrow entitlement overnight." At the time, I dismissed her advice, thinking she was just being overprotective. But now I wish I had listened. Then there was the issue with the dog. Emma decided she wanted a golden retriever puppy, specifically a purebred one she found online for $3,500. I love dogs, but with both Lauren and me working full-time and Emma's lack of responsibility, it didn't seem feasible. Both Lauren and I told her no, but Emma wouldn't let it go. She started showing us videos of shelter dogs and giving overly dramatic speeches about how she would be the perfect pet owner. One day, Lauren and I came home from work to find a puppy running around the house. Emma had somehow convinced her friend's mother to lend her the money with the promise of paying it back soon. At first, Lauren was furious, but Emma turned on the waterworks and softened her resolve. "We'll figure it out," Lauren said. Ultimately, I ended up covering all the expenses: food, vet bills, and training, while Emma barely took the dog for walks. Then there was Emma's modeling phase. She announced she wanted to pursue modeling and convinced Lauren to hire a professional photographer to create a portfolio. This wasn't a budget-friendly option. Emma insisted on someone with a well-known Instagram presence. The shoot alone cost over $1,500. And it was a complete disaster. Emma complained nonstop about the lighting, angles, and outfits. By the end, she was sulking because the raw photos didn't make her look perfect. Lauren tried to reassure her that the edited pictures would look better, but Emma wasn't satisfied. She demanded another photo shoot to redo everything. I immediately rejected the idea, which, of course, made me the bad guy again. What frustrated me the most was how Emma treated Lauren. She didn't just manipulate her, she also disrespected her constantly. She would roll her eyes when Lauren asked for help around the house and act as though chores were beneath her. One time, when Lauren asked her to load the dishwasher, Emma snapped, "Why don't you do it? You're better at that stuff anyway." Lauren just laughed it off, but I could tell it hurt her. And don't even get me started on the constant emergencies. Every few weeks, Emma came to us with some new problem that required immediate financial help. A broken laptop, a cracked phone screen, or worn-out car tires. Each time, Lauren dipped into our savings to cover it. I tried to establish a system where Emma would repay us for these so-called emergencies, but it didn't work. Lauren was too lenient, and Emma knew exactly how to take advantage of that. I started feeling like I was living with a con artist. Emma wasn't just spoiled, she was manipulative. She knew how to pit Lauren against me to get what she wanted. By the time Emma turned 20, it was clear she had no intention of maturing. She dropped out of community college after one semester, claiming it wasn't the right fit for her. She refused to get a part-time job, saying it would hurt her personal brand. Yet she constantly complained about how unfair it was that her friends could travel and buy expensive things while she was stuck at home. I tried having serious conversations with Lauren about Emma's behavior, but she always had an excuse. She's just figuring things out, or she'll grow out of it. Deep down, I think Lauren knew Emma wasn't going to change, but didn't know how to confront it. By this point, I was losing my patience. I loved Lauren, but living with Emma was becoming unbearable. I felt like I was always outnumbered and labeled the villain. Worst of all, I hadn't even seen the full extent of what Emma was capable of yet. It all began one Sunday afternoon. I was in my office catching up on work when Emma knocked on the door, which was unusual since she typically barged in. She entered, holding her phone like it was a prize, and launched into a pitch about an amazing opportunity. "I've been researching," she said, as though presenting a well-prepared thesis. "I want to start my own skincare line. Clean beauty is trending, and I already have the perfect name and logo. All I need is the startup money." I leaned back, skeptical. "How much are we talking?" Her face lit up like she'd won the lottery. "Only $7,000, she said. "That'll cover product samples, packaging, and the website. I've already spoken to a supplier, and they're ready to start once I send the payment." I waited, expecting her to provide more details, a business plan, timeline, or market research, but there was nothing. She just stood there, clearly anticipating an immediate yes. "Do you have any of this written down?" I asked. "Like a plan or projections?" Emma rolled her eyes. "Jack, it's not that complicated. It's skincare. Everyone buys it. People blow up on TikTok overnight. I already have the vision. I just need the money." I sighed. "Emma, $7,000 isn't pocket change. Starting a business requires more than just an idea and a TikTok account. Have you thought about the time and effort this will take?" Her expression soured. "Why do you always have to make things so difficult? You just don't believe in me. If I were your real daughter, you'd be supportive." Here came the guilt trip. She knew exactly how to push my buttons, but I wasn't giving in. "Emma, this isn't about doubting you. It's about being realistic. Starting a business is a huge responsibility, and you don't have the experience or a plan to back it up. I can't just hand over $7,000 for a vague idea." She stormed out, muttering under her breath about me being a dream crusher. I thought that was the end of it, but I should have known better. Later that night, Lauren approached me, looking uneasy. Emma told me about her business idea, she said, sitting next to me on the couch. I think it's good that she's passionate about something. I buried my face in my hands. Lauren, she's not passionate about anything except spending other people's money. She has no plan, no experience, nothing. This is just another whim. Lauren bit her lip, searching for the right words. I know it seems that way, but maybe this could be a turning point for her. Maybe if we give her the resources, she'll finally take responsibility for something. She's 20 years old, Jack. My voice came out sharper than I intended as I said, she dropped out of school, refuses to get a job, and spends half her day scrolling Instagram. What makes you think she's ready to manage a business? Lauren didn't have an answer. She just sighed and muttered, I'll talk to her. The next morning, I overheard them arguing in the kitchen. Emma was livid. Why do you always take his side? She shouted. It's like you don't even care about my future. I do care, Lauren replied, trying to stay calm. But $7,000 is a lot of money, and you don't even have anything concrete to back this idea. Maybe you could start smaller, like getting a part-time job to save up. Oh, so now I'm not good enough to follow my dreams because I don't have a job? Emma shot back. Do you even hear yourself? You're supposed to be my mom, but you're treating me like a loser. I stepped into the room, not wanting Lauren to take the brunt of it. Emma, no one's saying you can't chase your dreams. What we're saying is that you need to be realistic and put in the work like everyone else. She glared at me as though I had personally attacked her. You're the reason she won't support me. You've been against me from the start. With that, she stormed out, slamming the door so hard it shook the windows. The tension lingered for the rest of the week. Emma barely spoke to either of us, skulking around the house like a ghost. Lauren was caught in the middle, torn between supporting me and not wanting to upset Emma. But then things escalated in a way I hadn't anticipated. One evening, Lauren walked into the living room with an expression I'll never forget. We need to talk, she said, sitting down across from me. Okay, I replied cautiously. It's about Emma, she began, her voice unsteady. She told me something, and I don't even know how to process it. My stomach dropped. What did she say? Lauren took a deep breath. She said you've been inappropriate with her when I'm not home. I froze, unable to comprehend her words. What? I finally managed to say. She told me you've been making her uncomfortable, following her around the house and trying to get her alone. Lauren, that's absurd, I said, my voice shaking. I've done nothing of the sort. You know me. You know I would never. She seemed so scared, Jack, Lauren interrupted. I didn't know how to respond to her. She's lying, I said firmly. Think about it. This all started after I refused to give her the money. She's trying to manipulate you. Lauren looked conflicted, as though she wanted to believe me but couldn't dismiss Emma's words. Why would she make something like this up? She asked. Because she knows you'll believe her, I snapped. She's been manipulating us for years, and you've let her get away with it. Lauren flinched, but I didn't care. I was too angry, too hurt. The fact that she even entertained Emma's accusation felt like a betrayal. That night, I replayed the conversation over and over in my mind, trying to understand how things had reached this point. Emma had crossed a line I never thought she would, and Lauren's hesitation to defend me left me feeling like I was sinking in quicksand. The next day, I tried to show Lauren evidence to clear my name. Security camera footage, my work schedule, anything to prove I wasn't even home during the times Emma alleged. But Lauren wasn't convinced. You could have deleted the footage, she said quietly. I was stunned. The woman I married, the person I trusted most, was choosing to believe a lie over the years we had spent together. Meanwhile, Emma played the role of the victim perfectly. She flinched whenever I entered a room, cried to Lauren about how terrified she was, and shot me smug. knowing looks when Lauren wasn't around. My life was falling apart. I realized I wasn't just dealing with a spoiled teenager anymore. I was up against a master manipulator who wouldn't hesitate to destroy me to get her way. The first thing I did was contact a lawyer. I couldn't risk letting this situation spiral further. The lawyer I hired was experienced and didn't sugarcoat anything. "False accusations are incredibly dangerous," he said during our initial meeting. "Public opinion doesn't wait for evidence. If this escalates, it could ruin your life, even if you're innocent. We need to build an airtight defense." He outlined the steps I needed to take. Gather every piece of evidence, document every interaction, and avoid confronting Emma directly. "People like her thrive on drama," he explained. "Any emotional reaction could be used against you." I started by reviewing my home's security camera footage. I had installed cameras in the main areas and outside a few years ago after a neighborhood break-in. I spent hours combing through clips, looking for anything that contradicted Emma's claims. Sure enough, there were numerous clips of her behaving completely normally when she thought no one was watching. In one video, she was lounging on the couch, laughing at her phone just minutes after she supposedly had a traumatic interaction with me. I compiled all the footage and handed it to my lawyer. "This is good," he said after reviewing it. "It shows she's not as scared of you as she claims, but we'll need more." Next, I went through my phone records, texts, calls, and emails related to Emma, and organized them into a folder. Most of the messages were from Lauren, updating me on Emma's demands or asking me to compromise just this once. But there were also passive-aggressive texts from Emma herself, accusing me of being selfish and uncaring. My lawyer found them helpful, but not enough to definitively prove my case. I then turned to my neighbors for information. Mrs. Lane, who lived next door, was eager to help. "I've been meaning to say something, Jack," she said. "That girl has been throwing parties while you and Lauren are at work. I've had to call the cops twice for the noise." She provided a written statement with dates and times. Mr. Patel, who lived across the street, also offered his assistance. His security cameras had captured Emma sunbathing in the yard on days she claimed to be too afraid to leave the house. Another clip showed her sneaking a boy into the house late at night through a side window. But the most incriminating evidence came from Emma's own Instagram account. I hadn't thought to check it earlier, but when I did, I found a treasure trove of contradictions. There were selfies of her smiling at home, captioned with phrases like, "Living my best life," posted on days she alleged harassment. There were also photos of her at parties, shopping trips, and even a nail salon where she boasted about being spoiled. I screenshotted everything and added it to my growing file. My lawyer suggested going a step further. "If you're comfortable, we can set up voice-activated recorders in the house," he said. "It's legal since it's your property, and could reveal what she says when she thinks no one is listening." I hesitated. It felt invasive, but I realized I couldn't afford to hold back. I placed recorders in the common areas, the kitchen, living room, and hallway outside Emma's room. Within days, I captured conversations that exposed her lies. In one recording, she laughed with her friends, saying, "Mom always believes me. Jack doesn't stand a chance." In another, she bragged about crying on cue to convince Lauren she was terrified. The most damning evidence was a phone call where she outright admitted to fabricating everything. "I made it all up," Emma said nonchalantly. "He's being such a jerk about the money, so I had to do something. Mom will believe me no matter what." When I played that recording for my lawyer, it was the first time I'd seen him smile since we started working together. "This is it," he said. "This is the kind of evidence that will stand up in court." However, he cautioned me not to confront Emma or Lauren just yet. "Let's build the strongest case possible before making any moves," he advised. "We need to be ready for whatever they might throw your way." Over the next several weeks, I continued collecting evidence. Each time Emma slipped up, I documented it. I felt like a detective in my own home, constantly alert and waiting for the next puzzle piece to surface. Meanwhile, Lauren remained clueless about what was happening, fully focused on shielding Emma from me. Whenever I tried to discuss it with her, it always led to the same argument. "Why would she lie about something like this?" she would repeat, as if saying it enough times would make it true. I felt trapped in a distorted reality. Here I was, the man who had done everything to support this family, being treated like a criminal in his own house. But I knew I couldn't let my emotions cloud my judgment. The stakes were far too high. My reputation, my career, and my entire future depended on uncovering the truth. I was determined to see it through, no matter how long it took. Deep down, I knew it was only a matter of time before Emma made a mistake she couldn't recover from. That moment finally arrived on a Saturday morning. Lauren had gone grocery shopping, leaving Emma and me alone in the house. I was in my office working when I heard footsteps in the hallway. My instincts told me to start recording on my phone. Emma walked in without knocking, her expression smug, as if she held all the power. "We need to talk," she said, crossing her arms. I leaned back in my chair, keeping my face neutral. "All right, what's on your mind?" She got straight to the point. "I'm giving you one last chance to fix this," she said. "If you give me $50,000, I'll tell Mom I made everything up. I'll even apologize, and we can move on. No one else has to know." I stared at her, keeping my expression blank while my thoughts raced. $50,000? She wasn't even pretending this was about her business anymore. This was blatant blackmail. "And if I say no?" I asked, my voice calm. Emma smirked. "Then I take this public. I'll go to the police, post my story online, and contact every charity you work with. I've already written a post about how you've been grooming me since I was a teenager. It'll ruin you, Jack. Even if you're innocent, no one will believe you, not over me." She leaned back in her chair, looking so self-satisfied that it made my stomach churn. I wanted to shout at her, to throw her out of my house on the spot. But I knew better. I nodded slowly, pretending to consider her demand. "That's a big ask, Emma," I said. "I need some time to think about it." She shrugged. "Fine, but don't take too long. My patience is running out." With that, she stood up and left the room. I waited until I heard her bedroom door close before stopping the recording. My hands trembled as I played it back, listening to her outline her plan in her own words. I sent the file to my lawyer immediately. He called me within minutes. "This is it," he said. "She's admitted to everything. Lying, blackmail, the works. You're in the clear now." But we weren't finished yet. My lawyer suggested confronting both Emma and Lauren together, with him mediating via video call. That way, there would be no room for manipulation or denials. Lauren came home later that afternoon, unaware of what had happened. I asked her to sit in the living room, saying we needed to have an important discussion. Emma joined us a few minutes later. "What's this about?" Lauren asked nervously, glancing between us. "It's about the truth," I replied, pulling out my phone. "Emma, I think it's time you told your mom what's really been going on." For a moment, Emma's confident smirk faltered, but she quickly recovered. "I have no idea what you're talking about," she said, feigning innocence. I didn't respond. Instead, I connected my phone to the TV and played the first recording. It was from a few weeks earlier, in the living room, where Emma had laughed with a friend about how gullible Lauren was for believing her. Lauren's face turned pale as Emma's voice filled the room, mocking her and bragging about how easy it was to manipulate her. The next clip was the phone call where Emma admitted she had fabricated everything because I refused to give her money. Lauren covered her mouth with her hands, tears streaming down her face. "Mom, he's lying! He edited this!" Emma shouted, her voice tinged with panic. I held up my phone, showing her the timestamps. These are unedited, raw recordings. Stop lying, Emma. Finally, I played the recording from that morning. The one where Emma blatantly tried to blackmail me for $50,000. When it ended, the room fell silent. Lauren looked as though she might be sick, while Emma sat frozen, her face drained of color. I turned to Lauren. "Do you believe me now?" At first, she didn't respond. She just stared at Emma, her tears falling freely. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely audible. "Is this true?" Emma jumped to her feet, her desperation evident. "Mom, he's twisting everything. He made me say those things." "Stop!" Lauren interrupted, her voice firm. "Just stop!" Emma tried to argue, but Lauren shook her head, her tone rising. "I believed you. I turned against my husband because I thought you were telling the truth. And the whole time, you were lying." Emma's composure cracked. Her panic turned to rage in an instant. "You always take his side," she screamed. "You're a terrible mom, and he's a controlling jerk who deserved everything I said about him." Lauren broke down, sobbing into her hands, while Emma stormed off to her room. I called my lawyer and updated him. Within an hour, the eviction notices were printed and ready. Emma was the first to leave, screaming about how we had ruined her life. She packed a few bags and went to stay with a friend. Lauren begged me for another chance, crying, "I had no idea Emma would go this far. I just wanted to protect her." I shook my head. "You believed the worst of me without any proof, Lauren. I don't think I can get past that." She moved out the next day, taking a few essentials and leaving the rest for movers. I changed the locks immediately and installed additional security measures. Unsurprisingly, Emma tried to spin the narrative in her favor. Within days of leaving, she posted a dramatic story on Instagram, claiming she was a survivor who had escaped a toxic home. She accused me of abuse, said Lauren had betrayed her, and announced she was starting fresh to heal. She even created a GoFundMe for supposed legal fees, though what legal battle she referred to, I had no idea. Emma had been deceiving people her whole life, but this time she underestimated how much evidence I had against her. My lawyer sent cease and desist letters to Emma, her friends who were sharing her posts, and the GoFundMe platform. The letters included the recordings, screenshots, and all the evidence we had gathered. It didn't take long for the truth to emerge. One of Emma's former friends, someone she had wronged in the past, shared screenshots of texts where Emma boasted about fabricating the entire story to extort money from me. Another friend, the one from the recorded phone calls, came forward and corroborated everything. Emma's carefully crafted image as a victim unraveled almost immediately. Her GoFundMe campaign was shut down, her social media accounts went private, and the few sponsorship deals she had managed to secure for her aspiring influencer career were revoked. Word spread quickly among our social circle, and before long, Emma found herself with very few allies left. As for Lauren, she's been keeping a low profile. A few weeks after moving out, she sent me a lengthy email apologizing for everything. She confessed that, deep down, she had always known Emma was lying, but couldn't bring herself to face it, because acknowledging the truth meant admitting she had failed as a parent. "I wanted so badly to believe she was still my little girl," she wrote. "I let that blind me to the person she's become." It was a sincere message, and I could tell she genuinely regretted her actions. But for me, it didn't change anything. Betrayal like that leaves no room for reconciliation. I never replied. Through mutual friends, I learned that Lauren had moved back to her old neighborhood and taken a job at a local art supply store. She's still teaching art classes at the community center, which I think is good for her, but from what I've heard, she's struggling financially again, trying to juggle bills while rebuilding her life. As for Emma, it seems karma has been working overtime. After her social media implosion, She packed up and relocated to Reno, of all places, to live with a group of other aspiring influencers. They're crammed into a tiny apartment, splitting bills, and from what I hear, it's far from the glamorous lifestyle she had imagined. She's still clawing for attention and trying to break into the spotlight, but with her reputation in ruins, no one's interested. Meanwhile, I've been focusing on picking up the pieces and moving forward. The first thing I did was finalize the divorce. My lawyer ensured it was a quick and straightforward process. Lauren had no claim to my house, and I had all the necessary documentation showing that I had covered the majority of the expenses during our marriage. In the end, she didn't contest it. The second step was stepping away from the children's charity I had been volunteering with for years. That decision was the hardest. The organization had been an important part of my life, but with the accusations and the aftermath, I didn't want to risk any negative attention affecting their work. My lawyer assured me it was the right decision, but it still stings. Reflecting on everything, I've learned some valuable lessons from this ordeal. I've realized how fragile trust can be, how people can hide their true nature for a long time, and how even those you care about the most can let you down. But I've also discovered that I'm stronger than I ever imagined. While karma has taken its toll on both Emma and Lauren, it's also shown me kindness in its own way.